Thank you very much.
Good. Always a pleasure chatting to you, Prof. And now, Burundi blatantly defying the AU and the international community. Will these polls not just serve to exacerbate what's already become a very profound crisis, Prof? And what are some of the implications for Burundi for such a defined position it's taken?
Yes, that is indeed the case, and this is only the first round of elections. There's also going to be still an elections for the president's position on the 15th of July, and then the senatorial election a little bit later, about a week later. But what we are seeing is really a flight of people away out of Burundi. At the same time, some of the most important political leaders, like one of the deputy vice presidents, the leader of parliament, the deputy of the Constitutional Court, as well as members even of the Electoral Commission have fled the country. So there's a serious political crisis. Also, the international community have indicated that the African Union, to start with, have withdrew their observers. The European Union has done that. It's only the United Nations at this stage that has any presence in Burundi. So that means that the main question will be, maybe I should also add, is that as you've reported, none of the opposition parties are participating in the election. So the legitimacy of the election is exceptionally low. And that the main question will be, what will be the response now afterwards of both the African Union or African leaders in general, as well as the international community in general, about recognizing whoever comes now after this election as the new government. So it creates a major diplomatic and political crisis for Burundi.
Prof, you've been alluding to it now. In the past few hours, we've seen the head of the parliament defect, the latest in a wave of high-profile ruling party defections. Would it be accurate to say that we're actually seeing an implosion and a decreasing legitimacy of the ruling party at this point? They're still significant, of course, but their popularity has been on the decline since the end of the war.
Yes, that is indeed the case, and I think given the history of Burundi, from 1994's genocide, almost similar as that of Rwanda, its neighboring country, raises the stakes even much more higher. And I think that is one of the reasons why there's such an outgoing of and exit of so many people from the country, because they fear something similar might happen. The arrangement that was negotiated in 2005 is that there must be almost quotas with 60% Hutus and 40% Tutsis in most of the institutions of government, like in the military, in the cabinet, and in parliament also. And with this, the fact that it looks like President Nkurunziza is in a sense usurping power now in Burundi also puts that initial power sharing agreement under tremendous pressure, and that can create the possibility for long-term instability in Burundi in future.
All right, Prof. When it comes to those regional sort of implications, for example, a crucial question will be, will Rwanda seek to intervene in Burundi if things escalate further?
Well, that's a very difficult question. This situation in Burundi and in Rwanda is relatively similar in terms of their demographic composition. There are some relationships between Rwanda and Burundi that will encourage President Kagame to become involved in it, but quite soon he's going to encounter the same situation. There must be also elections, quite presidential elections in Rwanda in the next coming year, and there's also early indications that he also tries to have a third term of 7 years. So that complicates the matter, and that is why I think the East African community initially gave support to President Nkurunziza to continue with the third term, because it involves persons like President Kagame, as well as maybe even one can say President Museveni of Uganda, and even President Kabila of the DRC, who all indicated at some point that they also want to have third terms. So that complicates the whole regional dynamics, and I think that is why countries don't want to become involved in Burundi, because of their own the situation in their own countries, and the fact that they might be in the same situation in future.
All right, the rifts in the ruling party very clear, blatant right now, and many in the CNDD, FDD arguing against a third term for the president, saying in order for the party to to make the most of its chance of staying in power, a change of president is necessary, if not crucial. Do they have a point, Prof? On the surface, it would look like things would be more stable if President Nkurunziza would go. Then the main bone of contention in the ruling party would be removed, while we still have some degree of change.
Yes, I agree with that, and I think what we, the sentiment there is that it should not become a political system built around a person. We've seen it in some of the neighboring countries, like in Uganda and Rwanda, where the president becomes so dominant that it becomes almost a personality-driven political system. And I think what Burundi wants to see is that it doesn't develop in that direction, and that what I've mentioned earlier on the coexistence that exists between the Tutsis and the Hutus is actually respected, and there's in a sense a form of power sharing that exists. And I think from even the governing party's point of view, they appreciate that sentiment, and therefore there's so much resistance internally for the president to continue with the third term.
Professor Dirk Coetzee from UNISA's Political Sciences Department, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us right here on the PM News Desk. Well, moving on to other news now, a senior